This early spring craft is quick and easy and brightens up any decor or front door. All you need are pussy willows and grapevines, and I'll show you how to get both. Now you can see how full those pussy willows got, because before, when I clipped them, I went out early and I got them just before they were starting to really open. But if you put them in water for about a week, they'll start to open and then you can husk them off. I've got so many out of this one basket. I also had these that were in there as well, so I've got a whole bunch. And the other thing that we're going to use is a Grapevine Star. Now you can use a circle grapevine wreath, I'll show you, I also have a video on how to make your own, and at the end I'll put the video on of how to make this one. What you need is just any kind of base, so even if you just have a wire base, that's fine as well. When I went out hunting for pussy willows, because that's my favorite thing to do in the spring, I have a whole bunch of varieties. So I have these nice, real full ones, and then I have these red ones that are really fine and dainty, and they have these little black husks on them. So I kind of took them from everywhere. I go out to see kind of how the progress is and to see if they're really blooming yet. So I have a variety that I'm going to use. Now, if you want all one type of pussy willow, just make sure you're getting it all from the same bush or bushes. But if you want that variety of color, just look around and try and see if you can find some other bushes to get that variety in. Now, it's really, really simple. All you're going to need is some craft wire. Now, I have some silver craft wire. I just thought that would be nice with the pussy willow color. But you're not really even going to see it because we're bundling up our pussy willows and we're tying them off and then we're layering them. So you're not even going to see that. So I just use my scissors to clip the wire, and I usually leave about 8 inches of wire. That way when I tie the bundles, I've still got excess to tie off the pussy willow bundles onto the actual wreath. The other thing that you'll need your scissors for is sometimes on the pussy willows, they have this little tail. I call it a little tail. But if you want, you can clip that off so that it's just a clean stem of pussy willow. These kind of don't have a lot of tails on them, so I'm not really going to bother with that. I'm just going to bundle. So basically, what you want is you want a bundle that's about 6 inches long, and you want them so that they are going to cover your grapevine wreath. So if I was using this grapevine wreath and the width is only this wide, I want to make sure that my bundles are about the same size as my wreath. Okay, so if you have a really thick wreath, you might want a thicker bundle, but for this wreath, these are fine. And all you're going to do is take a piece of wire, and I think you guys have seen, if you've seen some of my other videos as well, you've seen me do this, but you're going to take it and you're going to wrap that wire around really, really tight, and then just simply really, really tight, and then you're just going to twist it off. So once you've gotten it really tight, you're just going to twist the wire a couple of times, and then I still have these 2 little tails so that I can attach it. And you've got the colors of the variety, but as I said before, you can just do whatever kinds you have. And whatever wreath you're going to use, make sure that when you put your pussy willows on, I like them to extend a little bit past where the wreath is, and then you take your wire from the front and pull it around the back, and again, you just have to twist it really tight. Now, the reason, twisting it several times, the reason you want to twist that wire super tight on the bundles and on your wreath base is because these are really nice and fresh and plump right now, the stems, but once they start to dry off, even though the pussy willows will stay nice and fluffy, the stems will wither and get very, very skinny and small. So you want to make sure that you've tied them on really tightly so that once they do shrink, these aren't going to start falling over. So you've got your first bundle there, and I've made a few additional bundles. And just when you're using, if you're going to use the star wreath, you just want to keep laying them over top in the same direction as the rows go, where the lines go on your star wreath. So now I'm going to just twist this one off. I'm going to make sure that it looks nice in the way that I'm sitting it on there, if I wanted to make it a little bit thicker. And make sure you're covering off your last stems. So you want to just put them on top so that you're covering those last stems and that you don't see them. If you want a really, really full one, you can put them up closer. But if you want to kind of spread out a little bit, you can put it down a little farther. And again, just take those two tails and wrap them around your base. And I like to sometimes lie it flat because I can get a better tightness pull. And the pussy willows, because they're still sort of fresh, they won't be falling off. And once you have your tails all done, you can clip those off as well. So with your scissors, you can take that little, once you've twisted them on several times, you can take that off and you've got a nice line. So I'm going to keep going and I'm going to finish this row and then I'm going to show you what you do once you go across these rows. Okay, so we're going to keep rolling. Now you can see, once I got to the end of the star, I had the tail sticking out. So when I layered over, I made sure some of the tails were sticking out. And then when I started my new row, I just wanted to make sure that they've covered over. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to gently clip these off one at a time, because if you try and take the whole bunch and clip it, sometimes it'll move everything. But I'm just going to clip these off, and then you should be left without being able to see them that well. So, okay, so you can see that you've got, now the corner is kind of covered. So now when you're kind of going to go over a bigger bump, so this is where you're going to tie it on here, but you don't want it sticking out so far. So you're going to tie it in two spots. You're going to tie it along the bottom where your tail is, and then you're going to grab another little piece of string, and just what I like to do is just kind of filter it through or wind it through only half of the pussy willows, the bottom half, so that you will be keeping them tight as well. But you'll press it down hard when you tie it so that it is definitely not going to pop off. Okay, I've been moving along at a pretty good pace. The real key is have your bundles already pre-done. And when you have to go and fill in some of these cross pieces, I tend to make sure that I make my bundle and then I measure, I see how much do I need to hang over, and then how much if the end is just going to hit right up against that inner side there. So I make sure that I clip it there and then that I tie it off. So as you can see, it's starting to take shape. I've had to cut off some of my tendrils just because they were kind of in the way, but it all depends on whether you can maneuver or not. So I'm going to keep going, but it's starting to really look beautiful. So whether you want to brighten up your neighborhood and put it on your front door or keep it as indoor decor, it looks amazing anywhere. And it really gives you that nice lightheartedness of springtime. So head on out, go for a nature walk, but first watch my video on how to forage for pussy willows and you'll be amazed at how many you find. So bring your bag with you, bring back a whole bunch of pussy willows and make something amazing. And don't forget to subscribe because I've got new natural crafts videos coming out every season using things found abundantly in nature to make amazing decor pieces and craft projects. Don't forget, be one with nature. Today we're going to make grapevine stars, and I've got two different methods to use with grapevines. So the first method we're going to use is just basically grapevine branches. And if you need to know how to find grapevine branches in nature, there's something at the end of this video to show you. But basically, depending on the diameter of your grapevine star, I just took grapevine branches and clipped them. These are about 21 inches long. And I got a whole bunch and I clipped them all to that length. Now for each arm of the star, I used about 5 branches, but if you want a really thick star, you can use 10 branches. It's just a little easier using 5 for the demonstration. So now all I do is I use crafting wire and I tie off the branch bundle, And I do it at the top and in the middle and also at the bottom. And this way it makes it really easy to work with because we're going to be moving them around quite a bit and flexing them. So this really helps to tie them off. So basically you're going to need 5 of these bundles for your star. So as soon as you've got 5 bundles and they're the same length, then we're going to start with our frame. So the first 2 go together and it almost looks like the letter A. And now we're going to add our 3rd branch bundle to really make it look like an A and tie off those joints. And you can see I've put them a little farther up. It's not really in the middle of the other branches, it's a little higher up. So tie those off and then get your 4th branch bundle and tie it to the left end of that top arm. And again, don't worry about how neat or tidy it is because we're going to clean it up. And then you tie it to the bottom of your right arm of that A. Get your last bundle. I like to flex them because then I can push it through and it makes it lie a little bit nicer. But you can see I've kind of put it in between those 2 arms. And then you're going to tie off both corners. So the remaining corners, tie those off, and then I actually make sure that I tie off the joints as well, because the ones where things are starting to move in the middle, I tie off those joints, you see there. And then again, it's just twisting the wire, clipping it, and now I cut the ends off to make it look like a true star. So it didn't matter that the ends were kind of sticking, overlapping each other. This way you use your clippers and you just make it clean and neat. And I also had some yellow willow and some dogwood branches, which you can use as well, or you can even add them just onto your star for an extra color pop. But what I wanted to do with this one is add some berries. Now, if you're out on a nature walk and you find some berries, just clip them off, bring them back with some evergreen branches, and make a few little branch bundles. So with these, I just pull the evergreens off the bottom of the stem so there's still a stem part, and then I add some layers of evergreens together. And then I grab my berries, anything that I found. You might find red berries or white berries, but I add these as well to the bundle. And then again, just use your wire to tie them into a little bundle. And I made 5 bundles so that I could put 1 bundle on each end. Just a little tip to keep your berries preserved. If you hit them with a little bit of hairspray, it's almost as if it seals them so that they're not going to deteriorate. Now I wanted to add some pine cones to the corners, and that way it kind of hides those corner bits. So you could use anything. You could use ornaments or ribbon or anything that you want for the ends to kind of hide them. And then finally, what I did is I added some ribbon and also some bells. So it just turns out so cute. Now for the second method, I'm using an entirely long strip of branches. I left the tendrils on, those curly bits, to make it look really, really neat. Just tie them off at the end, and then in segments, I also did 1 tie. So everywhere where we're going to bend it as a corner, I tied it off. So it was about 1.5 feet. And then I tied it off, and then I bent it so that that's going to be an end. So we're going to use pretty much the same philosophy as we used in the first one. We're going to have that kind of A-frame, but this time we take the branch from the bottom and then we pull it up, so we've got that angle going, and then pull the entire branch bundle across the top of the A. So that's where you're going to need a little bit of manipulation with your hands. And then you're going to pull it down through and under and through, and then that way you've got that nice star shape. Now, we haven't tied anything off, so it takes a little bit of maneuvering, but basically once we get that shape set, then we can start making all the joints connected. So you can see how I then wrapped and tied off all of the joints. So it's 1 long piece instead of 5 different branch bundles. And it kind of has a nicer, softer corner to each of them. So you can see there's two ways to make them, and at the end of the video I'll show you how to find grapevines in nature. And don't forget to subscribe and hit that like button because we've got amazing natural crafts for you to try all seasons through the year. Okay, first you're going to need your clippers, and you can see grapevines almost everywhere. Along fence lines and in forests, they hang in these trees and bushes and they choke them out. So it's a great idea to be able to clip them and pull them out, save some trees. So you can see how they kind of bend and weave through the bushes and the trees. And you'll also notice that they attach themselves by those curly tendrils. I'm looking for ones that are kind of long and straight, and when you clip them you'll know if they're alive or not, because even in the winter and the fall they'll still have a little green pigment on the inside. Sometimes if I find a really large branch, I will clip that off, and then when I pull it, you have to pull it out of the tree, so you're going to use some force. But for the big branches, you usually get a big reward because you have a whole bunch of smaller branches attached, and you can use those for our grapevine stars. So basically that's it. Find them in nature, take some clippings, and then you can trim off some of the bigger side branches and use those in your craft. You can also trim off the tendrils while you're out there, so you pretty much have everything that you need when you're coming back. And I have plenty more videos on what you can do with grapevine branches, so clip away.